Have you ever woken up one quiet morning, opened your eyes, and felt the heavy weight of silence pressing against your chest? Perhaps you've noticed how your phone no longer rings as frequently as it once did, or how the home that once echoed with laughter and lively conversations has slowly grown quiet. It's not that you chose to be alone. It simply happened, gradually, as life unfolded. Aging brings many gifts: wisdom, patience, and a deeper understanding of what truly matters. Yet, it also often brings solitude, sometimes gentle and comforting, sometimes heavy and challenging. When friends drift away, children become busy with their own lives, and perhaps a beloved partner has passed on, loneliness can quietly become your daily companion. But what if being alone doesn't have to mean feeling lonely? Today, we're going to explore something deeply meaningful: what to do when you find yourself aging and alone. I won't promise easy solutions or pretend that I have all the answers. Instead, I want to share with you some insights I've gained through my own experiences after years of walking this path myself. You see, I've learned that loneliness isn't always an enemy we must fight. Sometimes it's a teacher. It gently nudges us to turn inward, to reflect, to finally listen to our own hearts, and perhaps for the first time in decades, to truly get to know ourselves again. There's a quiet power that comes with solitude, a chance to rediscover who we are, what we love, and how we genuinely want to spend our remaining years. It's a chance to strip away expectations, obligations, and the endless noise of the outside world, leaving only clarity and peace. But I also know, from my own heart, that reaching that state of acceptance isn't always simple. It requires patience, gentle practice, and sometimes the courage to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our lives. Yet, the journey towards this inner peace is incredibly worthwhile. So, if you've ever felt abandoned by life, if you've ever believed you were forgotten, or perhaps even wondered if your life still holds meaning, you're not alone. In fact, you're standing at the beginning of a profound and potentially beautiful chapter, one where solitude becomes not a punishment, but a sacred space of growth and quiet joy. In today's video, I invite you to join me on this gentle exploration. Together, we'll uncover the quiet strength that can be found in solitude, discover ways to reconnect meaningfully with others without losing ourselves, and learn how being alone can actually bring us closer to genuine contentment and inner peace. Because remember, being alone doesn't mean you've been left behind. Often, it's life's gentle invitation to come home, to yourself. Let's walk this path together. The first step towards peace and solitude is accepting it wholeheartedly. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. Rather, it's about recognizing the reality of your current situation without judgment. It begins by acknowledging your feelings, understanding that they're valid, and allowing yourself the grace to feel them fully. Consider a woman named Eleanor. At 75, she found herself alone after losing her husband and noticing her friends slowly drifting apart due to their own life circumstances. At first, Eleanor felt a deep sadness and resisted the loneliness, viewing it as a personal failing or punishment. She spent days in bitterness, reflecting on what was lost and what could never be regained. One morning, while sitting quietly in her garden, Eleanor realized something profound. Loneliness wasn't something she needed to fight or overcome. It was simply something to accept and gently embrace. She began to see it as a part of her new normal, a phase in her life that required patience and compassion. Acceptance for Eleanor meant she had to sit with her feelings instead of constantly trying to distract herself. She learned to listen carefully to the silence around her, recognizing it not as emptiness, but as a space filled with potential. Eleanor began writing in a journal, recording her thoughts, feelings, and reflections. Each entry brought clarity and peace. She discovered that solitude allowed her to reconnect with herself in ways she'd forgotten. She started exploring interests she'd set aside years ago, reading classic novels, painting, and even practicing gentle yoga. Eleanor found joy in the simplicity of her new routine, appreciating the quiet mornings, the slow afternoons, and the tranquil evenings. Loneliness slowly transformed into a quiet companionship with herself. Accepting solitude also meant she needed to shift her perspective. Instead of viewing her circumstances as loss, Eleanor started seeing them as opportunities. Opportunities to grow, explore, and deepen her self-understanding. She realized she could find happiness in her own company, independent of anyone else's presence or validation. Over time, acceptance led Eleanor to greater emotional resilience. She became more content and peaceful, less anxious about her solitude, and genuinely grateful for the serenity it offered. Acceptance didn't remove the reality of solitude, but it significantly transformed her experience of it. Like Eleanor, you too can begin this gentle practice of acceptance. Start by simply acknowledging your feelings. Allow yourself to experience sadness, grief, or disappointment without judging yourself. Recognize that these feelings are natural responses to change and loss. Then, gradually shift your perspective, seeing solitude not as a void, but as a fertile space for growth and inner peace. Practice gentle self-compassion. Treat yourself as you would a beloved friend. Understand that acceptance takes time, and each small step forward is valuable. Remember that solitude isn't a reflection of your worth. It's merely a chapter in your life story, one filled with possibilities and quiet joys waiting to be discovered. Embracing solitude through acceptance brings a profound sense of peace. It allows you to move forward with grace, confidence, and quiet joy, knowing that your value and happiness are never dependent on external validation, but always rooted deeply within you. Have you ever truly spent time alone? Not just physically alone, but truly, deeply, and comfortably alone with yourself? For many of us, especially in our later years, this can be an unfamiliar and somewhat daunting experience. Perhaps we've spent our entire lives caring for others, nurturing relationships, raising families, or dedicating ourselves to a career. Now, faced with solitude, we might find ourselves feeling disconnected, uncertain of how to fill the silence, unsure of how to be our own companion. Yet, solitude provides a profound opportunity, one that few fully appreciate. It's an opportunity to rediscover yourself, to uncover hidden layers, dreams, and talents that may have been long forgotten. This is your moment to truly befriend yourself, to build a deep, compassionate, and lasting relationship with the one person who will always be there, yourself. Let me share the story of James, a quiet, thoughtful man in his early 70s living in a small town in Vermont. After his wife passed away, James struggled deeply with solitude. He'd spent his adult life with his beloved partner, sharing every morning coffee, every evening walk, every small joy and sorrow. Her absence created a void that felt impossible to fill. Initially, James sought distractions, television, endless household chores, and aimless walks. Anything to avoid confronting the emptiness. But one afternoon, as he sat quietly by the window watching the snow gently fall, James suddenly realized he had never truly learned how to be alone. The thought startled him. He wondered, how could I have lived this long without ever truly knowing myself? From that day, James decided he would try to become his own friend, just as he had been a loyal friend to his wife and others throughout his life. He began by deliberately setting aside time each day just for himself, not to fill it with tasks or distractions, but simply to be present with his thoughts and feelings. He rediscovered an old passion, woodworking, that had once given him great joy. With patient hands, James started crafting small wooden toys for his grandchildren. At first, the quiet workshop felt overwhelming, filled only with memories and echoes. But gradually, something shifted. James found comfort in the gentle, rhythmic sound of tools against wood, the familiar scent of sawdust, and the tangible satisfaction of creating something beautiful with his own hands. Through woodworking, James learned patience, not just with the wood, but with himself. Each carving, each piece, became a metaphor for his own growth and acceptance. Just as wood required gentle, consistent attention, so did his relationship with himself. This new hobby wasn't merely a distraction, it was a bridge back to his own heart. James found solace and even happiness in the hours spent working quietly. He discovered that solitude didn't have to be empty or meaningless. It could be rich and fulfilling if he allowed himself to genuinely enjoy his own company. But befriending yourself isn't always about hobbies or activities. Sometimes, it's about giving yourself permission to simply rest, to slow down, and to care for yourself tenderly. It might mean savoring a slow breakfast, taking leisurely strolls in nature, reading books you've always loved, or even allowing yourself the luxury of an afternoon nap without guilt. These acts of gentle self-care help remind us that we deserve kindness, comfort, and care, not just from others, but primarily from ourselves. Another vital aspect of befriending oneself is learning how to speak kindly and compassionately to ourselves. Listen closely to your internal dialogue. How do you speak to yourself when you're alone? Are you critical, judgmental, harsh, or supportive, encouraging, and kind? Consider how you might comfort a dear friend or loved one facing the same emotions or struggles. Try extending that same level of compassion to yourself. James, for instance, learned to catch himself whenever negative thoughts arose. He began practicing a simple habit. Whenever he noticed harsh or critical thoughts, he paused and gently asked himself, "Would I ever speak this way to my best friend?" Over time, this practice softened his internal voice, making solitude not just bearable, but genuinely comforting. There's another beautiful dimension to befriending oneself: the ability to explore your inner world more deeply. Solitude gives us the freedom to reflect, to ask meaningful questions about our lives, our choices, and our hopes for the future. Journaling can become an invaluable practice here. Writing doesn't need to be elaborate or structured. Simply put your thoughts on paper as they flow. You may be surprised at the wisdom and clarity that emerge from these quiet reflections. James, for example, kept a daily journal beside his bed. Each evening before sleep, he noted things he felt grateful for, reflections from the day, and thoughts he wanted to remember. Sometimes it was as simple as noticing the way sunlight entered his kitchen or recalling a pleasant conversation with a neighbor. These notes gradually built a deep appreciation for the small joys of life. Importantly, befriending yourself also involves setting healthy boundaries, even within your solitude. Learn to recognize what nurtures your soul and what drains your energy. Perhaps certain habits or interactions no longer serve your well-being. Give yourself permission to gently release these from your life. Protecting your emotional space and honoring your needs fosters a profound sense of respect and self-worth. One day, months after James began his journey of befriending himself, he realized something remarkable. Solitude had become peaceful and even comforting. He found himself genuinely enjoying quiet moments, filled with gratitude for the simple beauty of his life. It wasn't that he no longer missed his wife or felt lonely at times. He did. But solitude was no longer his enemy. It had become a trusted friend, a companion guiding him gently through this chapter of his life. As you navigate your own path, consider the journey James took. Befriending yourself may seem challenging initially, especially if solitude feels new or uncomfortable. But remember, this relationship you're building with yourself is perhaps the most important and rewarding of your entire life. Take small, gentle steps. Start by spending just a few minutes each day intentionally alone, without distractions. Choose activities or habits that nourish your spirit and speak kindly to yourself throughout the process. Over time, you'll discover that your own company is not just tolerable, but truly delightful. This friendship with yourself, developed gently over time, becomes your anchor, your comfort, and your strength. In moments of quiet solitude, you find not emptiness, but profound peace, clarity, and joy. You realize deeply and sincerely that solitude isn't about being alone. It's about finally becoming the friend you've always needed. As you journey through solitude and learn to befriend yourself, you might begin to wonder about your relationships with others. Perhaps you've noticed that over time, the circle of friends and family surrounding you has slowly become smaller. Gatherings that once filled your days now seem distant, leaving behind memories and quiet spaces. Yet, rather than mourn the dwindling numbers, it's important to realize a profound truth. At this stage in life, quality far surpasses quantity. It's no longer about how many people surround you, but about the depth and authenticity of those connections. Embracing solitude doesn't mean closing yourself off from others. Instead, it invites you to carefully choose whom you share your precious time and emotional energy with. Allow me to introduce you to Margaret, a woman in her late 60s living in a peaceful town in Oregon. Margaret had always been a social butterfly, the heart of her community, involved in numerous groups and constantly surrounded by friends. After retiring and experiencing the loss of her husband, Margaret began feeling disconnected and withdrawn. Gradually, her large circle diminished, leaving her with just a handful of friends. Initially, Margaret saw this as a loss. She missed the hustle and bustle, the sense of belonging to a big group. But with fewer interactions, something remarkable happened. Margaret began noticing the richness of these remaining relationships. Conversations were deeper, filled with honesty, warmth, and genuine care. She realized these friendships weren't just casual interactions, but lifelines, connections rooted deeply in mutual understanding and compassion. Quality connections begin with intention. To truly reconnect, ask yourself, who are the people that genuinely matter to me? Whose presence enriches my life? Perhaps it's an old friend you've known for decades but rarely speak to now, or a family member you've slowly drifted away from. It could be someone in your neighborhood or community who's shown consistent kindness and sincerity. Reconnecting can be as simple as making a phone call, sending a handwritten letter, or inviting someone for a quiet coffee or walk. These gestures might feel small, yet they're deeply meaningful. Margaret began reaching out to a dear friend named Linda, whom she hadn't spoken to regularly for years. They decided to meet once a week at a local cafe, simply to talk, listen, and share their lives. These meetings became a cherished routine, a cornerstone of joy and emotional nourishment. In Solitude, you have the unique opportunity to approach relationships more thoughtfully. When fewer people surround you, each relationship becomes precious, deserving careful attention and genuine effort. This is a moment to practice deep listening, truly hearing what others share, providing your full presence without distraction. Authentic listening strengthens bonds and fosters deep emotional intimacy. Margaret discovered something profound during her weekly meetings with Linda. Because both women listened fully, without rushing or distraction, their conversations reached new depths. They talked openly about their dreams, fears, and even painful memories they'd rarely shared before. This mutual vulnerability created an extraordinary bond, transforming their friendship into something beautiful and resilient. Quality connections also thrive in simplicity. Sometimes, the deepest moments of connection occur in quiet, ordinary circumstances, sharing tea on a rainy afternoon, tending a garden together, or simply sitting side by side, comfortable in mutual silence. These quiet moments often say more than words ever could. They remind us that genuine companionship doesn't always need endless conversation or entertainment. Sometimes, it's simply about being together, fully and comfortably present. Another essential element in nurturing quality relationships is authenticity. As we age, many of us become less concerned with appearances or impressing others. Instead, we seek honest, genuine interactions. Don't be afraid to be your authentic self, sharing openly about your thoughts, feelings, and even vulnerabilities. Authenticity encourages others to respond in kind, creating deeper, more satisfying bonds. Margaret learned this firsthand when she chose to open up honestly about her loneliness and struggle after losing her husband. Instead of alienating her friend, Margaret's honesty inspired Linda to share her own experiences. The vulnerability strengthened their friendship immensely, creating a safe space for genuine emotional support. Quality connections aren't restricted to old friendships. They can also blossom with new acquaintances who share similar values and interests. Perhaps there's someone you see regularly in your neighborhood, at a bookstore, or at local community events. These potential friendships can be gently nurtured by initiating friendly conversations or invitations to small gatherings. Even a smile and warm greeting can pave the way to meaningful relationships. Margaret, for instance, began volunteering at a local library. Here she met people of various ages, including younger generations. She found joy in these new friendships, relishing the opportunity to share her wisdom and experiences. Margaret learned that meaningful connections often transcend age and background. They simply require openness and kindness. Moreover, embracing quality over quantity helps you set healthy boundaries. With fewer relationships to manage, you gain clarity about what truly matters to you in friendships. You learn to recognize which relationships nourish your spirit and which drain your energy. Gently and respectfully setting boundaries protects your emotional well-being, ensuring your relationships remain healthy, positive, and fulfilling. Finally, remember that quality connections can also flourish within your own family. Relationships with family members often shift as we age, sometimes becoming strained or distant. But this solitude provides an opportunity to thoughtfully rebuild these bonds. Reach out gently, express your appreciation, and remain patient. Genuine effort often revitalizes family relationships, turning them into sources of profound emotional support. Margaret, for example, experienced this with her daughter, with whom she'd grown distant. Margaret's newfound patience, willingness to listen without judgment, and sincere openness eventually repaired their relationship. They began spending time together again, sharing stories, laughter, and even tears. The bond became stronger than ever, providing Margaret immense comfort and joy. As you nurture quality connections, remember that the goal isn't to eradicate solitude, but rather to enrich it. Deep, meaningful relationships complement your solitude, offering comfort, companionship, and emotional nourishment without overwhelming you. These connections remind you that, although fewer people may surround you, those who do truly matter, each bringing warmth, understanding, and genuine care into your life. So, as you continue your journey through solitude, embrace the beautiful simplicity of quality connections. Each bond is a precious gift, carefully cultivated, deeply appreciated, and profoundly fulfilling. These connections will gently illuminate your solitude, making your life richer, warmer, and infinitely more meaningful. As we age, it's natural to find ourselves reflecting more often on the past. Memories resurface, some bringing warmth and joy, others reopening old wounds that we hoped time would erase. Perhaps you've noticed that certain moments from your past linger longer in your mind, causing pain or regret that still feels fresh, despite the years that have passed. Healing past wounds is a delicate but essential part of our journey toward peace and contentment, especially when solitude becomes a significant part of our daily lives. Often, the quiet spaces in our days allow unresolved memories to surface more vividly, compelling us to finally confront them. Yet, this confrontation doesn't have to be harsh or painful. It can be gentle, compassionate, and ultimately freeing. Let me share with you the story of Thomas, an elderly man living alone in a cozy cottage in New Hampshire. Thomas, at 78, was known in his community for his quiet kindness, though few knew the silent burdens he carried. Deep within his heart, Thomas harbored lingering regrets and unresolved grief from earlier chapters of his life, relationships that had soured, decisions he wished he'd made differently, words left unspoken. Initially, Thomas resisted facing these wounds, hoping they would fade if he simply ignored them. But he soon realized something profound. Unresolved pain doesn't disappear. It waits patiently beneath the surface, affecting our emotional health and sense of peace. During quiet moments alone, the memories grew louder, urging him to finally acknowledge and gently confront them. Thomas knew that true peace required courage, the courage to revisit painful moments, understand them, and ultimately forgive. But how does one even begin this journey of healing? He started by allowing himself to feel. This might seem simple, but for many of us, especially as we grow older, it's tempting to suppress painful emotions. We tell ourselves we must remain strong or positive at all times. Yet, healing begins when we give ourselves permission to experience sadness, regret, and even anger. Thomas began spending quiet moments reflecting honestly about his past, allowing himself to feel everything deeply without judgment or resistance. Next, Thomas embraced the power of compassion, especially compassion toward himself. He realized that many of his past regrets came from holding himself to unrealistic standards, punishing himself for being human, and expecting perfection in an imperfect world. He began practicing gentle self-compassion, reminding himself daily, "I did the best I could with what I knew at the time." This simple affirmation gradually softened the harshness with which he had viewed his past choices. Thomas also found comfort in writing. He decided to write letters, not necessarily to send them, but as a therapeutic way of expressing everything left unsaid. He wrote to family members, old friends, and even to himself. In each letter, he poured out his heart, expressing regret, apologies, forgiveness, and love. Through this process, Thomas experienced tremendous emotional release. The act of writing allowed him to process his emotions safely, clearly, and authentically. Forgiveness became a key part of Thomas's healing journey, not just forgiveness toward others, but primarily toward himself. Many of us find it easier to forgive others than ourselves. We can rationalize and understand others' mistakes, yet we're often harshly critical of our own. Thomas learned that genuine forgiveness involves acknowledging the past fully and compassionately, accepting that we cannot change what has already occurred, and choosing consciously to release resentment and regret. One afternoon, sitting quietly in his garden, Thomas had a realization that profoundly shifted his perspective. He understood that forgiveness wasn't about condoning mistakes or pretending pain never existed. Forgiveness meant reclaiming his peace, taking back control from past wounds, and deciding that they would no longer define his present or future. Thomas decided to reconnect with certain individuals from his past whom he distanced himself from because of unresolved issues. With humility and openness, he reached out through letters and phone calls, initiating gentle conversations filled with honesty and vulnerability. Not all interactions resulted in reconciliation, but the mere act of extending himself brought immense healing. He realized that sometimes, closure doesn't mean repairing relationships, but simply letting go of the emotional weight associated with them. It's important to acknowledge that some wounds may never fully disappear. Some losses, griefs, or disappointments remain a quiet part of our story. However, what healing can provide is the ability to coexist peacefully with these memories, to hold them gently without letting them disturb our emotional balance. Thomas discovered that true healing wasn't about erasing the past, but about changing his relationship with it, moving from pain and regret to acceptance, compassion, and wisdom. Healing past wounds also involves recognizing the lessons these experiences offer. Thomas realized that every painful memory provided invaluable insight into his own resilience, strength, and capacity for growth. Instead of seeing past hurts as failures, he started viewing them as essential chapters in his journey toward becoming the person he was today, wiser, kinder, and deeply compassionate. One of the beautiful outcomes of Thomas's healing was his newfound ability to empathize with others who carried similar emotional burdens. His personal journey became a quiet source of strength and understanding that he could offer to friends, family, and even neighbors struggling with their own unresolved pasts. In sharing his story gently and openly, Thomas created spaces where others felt safe to begin their own healing journeys. As you reflect on your own life, consider the gentle steps Thomas took. Healing past wounds isn't about rushing or forcing emotional breakthroughs. It's about slowly, gently, and compassionately approaching your inner self. Allow yourself the grace to feel your emotions fully, practice self-compassion daily, and engage in activities like writing or quiet reflection that facilitate emotional expression. When you embrace forgiveness, especially toward yourself, you release emotional burdens that have weighed you down. You create room in your heart for peace, joy, and meaningful connections. Forgiveness liberates you from the past, allowing you to live fully in the present moment. Healing is an ongoing process, one filled with ups and downs, breakthroughs, and setbacks. Yet each gentle step forward matters deeply. Over time, you'll notice that past wounds no longer hold power over your happiness or inner peace. You become stronger, calmer, and infinitely more compassionate. As you navigate solitude, let it become your ally in healing. Use quiet moments as opportunities for gentle reflection, forgiveness, and growth. Allow past wounds to become sources of wisdom rather than lingering sources of pain. And remember, healing doesn't require perfection, only patience, courage, and gentle self-compassion. Your past doesn't define your present or future. It simply enriches your story, making you the wise, compassionate, and beautifully resilient person you are today. Have you ever paused, truly paused, to notice the quiet beauty surrounding your daily life? As we grow older, it's often the simplest things, the quiet moments, small gestures, or ordinary routines that can hold the greatest joy. In the fast-paced years of our youth, we often overlook these subtle gifts. But now, Solitude gently encourages us to slow down and discover the abundant joy hidden in plain sight. Imagine Anna, a thoughtful woman in her mid-70s who lives alone in a small home near the coast of Maine. For many years, Anna was consumed by obligations, work, raising children, community involvement, and rarely had time to slow down. When retirement arrived, followed closely by the loss of her husband, Anna initially struggled with solitude. Her days felt empty, and happiness seemed distant. Yet one morning, Anna woke earlier than usual. She stepped onto her porch and was captivated by the gentle sunrise, the ocean quietly lapping against the shore, and birds softly beginning their morning songs. Something shifted inside her. Anna suddenly realized that joy didn't need grand events or extraordinary accomplishments. It could be found in moments like this, in simple beauty that was always there, waiting patiently for her to notice. Anna began to intentionally seek out these quiet joys daily. She took leisurely walks along the shoreline, savoring the feeling of sand beneath her feet, the fresh scent of salt air, and the soothing rhythm of waves. She started noticing little details she'd previously overlooked, the patterns of seashells, the delicate wildflowers growing near her path, and the way sunlight danced across the water. Soon, Anna discovered joy in other quiet activities, such as gardening. Each morning, she'd spend time tending her small garden, planting herbs, vegetables, and colorful flowers. Anna found great satisfaction in the simplicity of caring for plants, noticing their growth day by day. She saw gardening as a gentle metaphor for life itself, an act of patience, nurturing, and hope. Simple pleasures also emerged from everyday rituals. Preparing tea became an act of mindfulness, carefully choosing her favorite mug, patiently waiting for the water to boil, breathing deeply as the fragrant tea steeped. Anna learned to savor these quiet routines fully, finding comfort and joy in their familiarity. The beauty of finding joy in little things lies in their accessibility. You don't need grand resources or extensive planning, just a willingness to slow down and notice. Joy can be found in something as simple as the warmth of sunlight streaming through a window, the gentle sound of rain, or the delightful aroma of freshly baked bread. Anna discovered that solitude provided a unique opportunity for mindfulness. With fewer distractions, she became more attuned to her senses. She began paying close attention to the textures, smells, tastes, sounds, and sights around her. Each moment offered a gentle reminder that life, even when quiet or seemingly ordinary, held abundant beauty. Connecting with nature became a profound source of joy for Anna. Nature has a unique way of grounding us, offering calm reassurance and endless opportunities for wonder. Anna often sat quietly beneath a large oak tree near her home, observing squirrels playing, leaves rustling gently, and birds singing sweetly. These moments in nature reminded her of life's continuous, gentle rhythms, comforting and reassuring her in times of loneliness. Joy was also found in creativity and exploration. Anna revisited an old hobby, painting. She began capturing the small, beautiful details around her, seascapes, flowers, even simple objects like her favorite teacup. Painting wasn't about perfection or talent, but about the joy of creating something uniquely hers, expressing her inner world without judgment or expectation. Another quiet source of joy for Anna came from animals. Adopting a small, affectionate cat named Luna transformed her home and heart. Luna provided gentle companionship and unconditional love, filling Anna's days with warmth and playful moments. The simple act of petting Luna, feeling her gentle purring, became deeply therapeutic. Similarly, you might consider welcoming an animal companion into your life or simply appreciating wildlife around you. Feeding birds in your garden, observing animals during your walks, or volunteering at an animal shelter. Animals remind us of unconditional acceptance and simple joys. Connecting with the past in gentle, joyful ways also brought Anna happiness. Revisiting photo albums, listening to old music, or preparing cherished family recipes created warm feelings of nostalgia. Instead of sadness, These activities gently reminded Anna of the beautiful moments she'd experienced, reinforcing gratitude and joy in her current life. Furthermore, Anna learned the joy of giving small kindnesses. Simple gestures, baking cookies for neighbors, sending thoughtful notes, or offering compliments, brought immense joy, both to others and herself. These small acts reminded her of the power each of us has to brighten someone's day with minimal effort. Solitude also offers the joy of freedom, the freedom to structure your days exactly as you please, embracing simplicity. Anna learned to love unhurried mornings, quiet afternoons reading a favorite novel, and gentle evenings watching sunsets. Each peaceful day reminded her of the beauty in simplicity and the immense value of solitude itself. Most importantly, Anna discovered joy within herself. She learned that true joy wasn't dependent on external circumstances, but on her perspective and openness to life's quiet wonders. Each small joy she embraced built upon itself, creating a profound sense of fulfillment and happiness. As you reflect on Anna's experiences, consider how you might begin finding joy in small, simple pleasures within your own life. Start by slowing down and noticing details often overlooked: the gentle warmth of sunlight, the comfort of familiar routines, the beauty of nature surrounding you. Rediscover hobbies or creative outlets that nourish your spirit without judgment or expectation. Practice gratitude daily, appreciating simple comforts, relationships, and moments. Gratitude naturally enhances your ability to experience joy deeply. Embrace opportunities to offer small kindnesses, reminding yourself of the beautiful interconnectedness we share with others. In solitude, allow yourself the freedom and space to cultivate mindfulness, creativity, and simple joys. Remember, joy doesn't require extravagance or grand gestures. It's often hidden quietly within ordinary moments, waiting patiently for you to notice and embrace it. By learning to find joy in little things, your solitude becomes not only bearable, but genuinely delightful. You discover profound happiness hidden in plain sight, accessible anytime you choose to slow down, notice, and appreciate. Ultimately, the simplest pleasures become your greatest treasures, rich, enduring, and infinitely precious. As we reach the final step in our journey, it's essential to pause and reflect on what solitude truly means. Throughout our lives, solitude often carries a negative connotation: loneliness, isolation, or abandonment. But what if, in this gentle chapter of your life, solitude could mean something entirely different? What if it could signify freedom, peace, clarity, and genuine fulfillment? I'd like to share with you the story of Elizabeth, an inspiring woman in her late 70s, who lives in a small cottage nestled quietly in the mountains of North Carolina. Elizabeth had always lived surrounded by people, raising a family, working in education, and actively engaging in community life. When retirement came, followed closely by the passing of her husband and the gradual drifting away of her grown children, Elizabeth initially struggled deeply with solitude. It felt like a painful emptiness, an absence that seemed impossible to fill. Yet, slowly and gently, Elizabeth began redefining solitude. Instead of viewing it as isolation, she chose to see it as a precious opportunity, a chance to finally create the life she genuinely desired, free from external expectations, judgments, or obligations. This new perspective transformed everything. Elizabeth realized that solitude was not emptiness, it was spaciousness. It was a blank canvas waiting patiently for her to fill it with experiences and activities that genuinely resonated with her soul. She decided to carefully and intentionally design her days, focusing solely on what brought her joy, meaning, and genuine satisfaction. Elizabeth began by asking herself a profound yet simple question: what truly matters to me at this stage in my life? This question might seem simple, but it's powerful in guiding you toward a life that feels genuinely fulfilling and meaningful. For Elizabeth, her answer was clear: creativity, personal growth, connection with nature, and quiet spiritual exploration. She rediscovered her love for writing poetry, something she'd set aside many years ago. Writing became not merely a hobby but a profound form of self-expression, a way to process her feelings, experiences, and reflections. Elizabeth filled quiet mornings writing gently in her notebook, allowing her words to flow freely. Each poem became a reflection of her innermost self, bringing clarity, insight, and joy. Solitude allowed Elizabeth to cultivate personal growth through continuous learning. She decided to explore topics she'd always been curious about, but had never found the time for: philosophy, spirituality, history, and even languages. The simple act of learning something new each day filled Elizabeth's life with a quiet excitement and sense of accomplishment. Additionally, solitude became an invitation for Elizabeth to deepen her spiritual life. She embraced gentle meditation and mindfulness, spending peaceful moments each day quietly reflecting or sitting in stillness. Spirituality doesn't always mean religious practices. Often, it's simply about connecting with something deeper within yourself or with the natural world around you. Elizabeth found profound comfort in these quiet spiritual practices, grounding herself in peace, gratitude, and inner strength. Nature became another essential component of Elizabeth's redefined solitude. The quiet mountains surrounding her cottage became a source of endless wonder, comfort, and inspiration. Elizabeth took daily walks along forest paths, noticing the changing seasons, the gentle sounds of wildlife, and the calming beauty of natural landscapes. Connecting deeply with nature reminded her of life's gentle rhythms and her own place within this beautiful cycle. Elizabeth also discovered that redefining solitude meant becoming clear about her values and boundaries. With fewer social obligations and pressures, she felt freer than ever to say no to activities or relationships that drained her energy or happiness. Protecting her emotional and mental well-being became essential to maintaining a fulfilling solitude. Elizabeth gently and respectfully set boundaries, creating space for relationships and activities that genuinely nurtured her. Moreover, Elizabeth understood that solitude wasn't a static state. It continually evolved and shifted over time. She learned flexibility, allowing herself the freedom to adjust her routines, activities, and focus as her desires and interests naturally changed. This flexibility kept her life vibrant, preventing stagnation or monotony. Elizabeth also found immense meaning in gently sharing her wisdom and experiences with younger generations. She volunteered occasionally at a local community center, hosting small poetry and storytelling workshops. These interactions provided her a deep sense of purpose, connection, and joy, reminding her of the enduring value her life experiences held for others. Perhaps one of the most important lessons Elizabeth learned was that solitude didn't erase the need for connection. Rather, it redefined what connection meant. Relationships remained essential, but they became selective, thoughtful, and deeply intentional. Elizabeth maintained close, meaningful friendships, appreciating them even more because of their sincerity and depth. She nurtured these relationships carefully, recognizing that they enriched her solitude rather than diminished it. Through Elizabeth's experiences, we see clearly that solitude, when approached with intention, compassion, and openness, becomes not just bearable, but profoundly fulfilling. It offers a rare opportunity to live authentically, free from external expectations, creating a life filled with genuine meaning and joy. As you consider your own life, reflect on how you might redefine solitude. Begin gently by asking yourself what truly matters to you. What activities, relationships, or experiences genuinely enrich your life? Fill your days with these meaningful pursuits, recognizing that each moment spent intentionally contributes profoundly to your overall happiness and contentment. Allow solitude to become your greatest ally, providing clarity, peace, and freedom. Recognize that solitude doesn't diminish your life's significance. Instead, it amplifies your ability to live authentically, thoughtfully, and joyfully. Solitude is your sacred space. Cherish and honor it deeply. Remember always that this chapter of your life holds immense potential and beauty. You have the power to shape it gently and intentionally, creating a life filled with profound fulfillment, meaning, and peace. Redefining solitude isn't merely about surviving loneliness. It's about genuinely thriving, discovering layers of yourself you never knew existed, and ultimately creating a life that resonates deeply with your soul. As we gently conclude this journey together, let's pause once more to appreciate all we've explored. You've bravely traveled through acceptance, embraced the quiet friendship within yourself, learned the power of quality connections, courageously healed past wounds, discovered profound joy in life's smallest pleasures, and thoughtfully redefined solitude as an opportunity rather than a burden. Each step you've taken represents remarkable courage. The courage not to escape loneliness but to embrace it, to transform solitude from something feared into something cherished. Aging in solitude may have seemed daunting initially, but now, hopefully, you recognize the quiet strength, wisdom, and joy they can offer when approached with gentle openness. Moving forward, carry with you this newfound understanding. Remember, solitude is not abandonment, but a quiet invitation to deeper self-awareness, profound peace, and genuine happiness. Embrace it fully and tenderly. Allow it to nourish your spirit, inspire creativity, foster meaningful connections, and remind you daily of your intrinsic value and strength. Continue practicing patience and compassion, especially toward yourself. Understand that solitude, like life itself, has its seasons and rhythms. Some days you'll thrive joyfully, others might feel challenging or quiet. Both are natural, valuable parts of your journey. Be gentle with yourself, offering comfort, patience, and reassurance through each moment. Cherish the connections you've chosen to nurture, the friends and family who genuinely enrich your solitude and provide emotional warmth and understanding. These bonds, no matter how few, are precious and worthy of your care and attention. Never underestimate the profound power of simple joys. Continue savoring life's quiet pleasures, warm sunlight, gentle mornings, peaceful evenings, or the familiar comfort of cherished routines. Find gratitude in these small moments, recognizing their immense ability to transform ordinary solitude into extraordinary peace. Remember, your journey through solitude isn't static. It will continue evolving gently over time. Allow yourself the freedom to adapt and explore, always guided by your heart, curiosity, and deepening wisdom. Finally, know you're never truly alone. Within solitude lies the beautiful presence of your authentic self, your wisest companion, greatest comforter, and most loyal friend. Solitude isn't emptiness. It's a quiet fullness, rich with potential and profound contentment. If today's reflections have resonated with you, please feel free to share your thoughts and experiences. Your journey, wisdom, and insights might gently guide someone else who is walking this path. Thank you deeply for sharing this thoughtful, gentle journey with me. I encourage you to move forward with gentle courage, knowing you are fully capable, deeply valued, and worthy of a life filled with inner peace, meaningful connections, and genuine joy. Until we meet again, may your days be beautifully serene, filled with gentle joy, quiet wisdom, and profound peace.